I came home after a 12-hour shift at the hospital to find my 3 kids sitting on the front porch in the dark. Emma, Jack, and Lily looked hungry, tired, and confused. No sign of Amanda, my ex-wife, anywhere. Just a hastily scribbled note saying, "Emergency date night, back tomorrow, thanks." I stood there, exhaustion mixing with disbelief, as I realized they had been waiting for hours. My youngest was crying. I was not even supposed to have them today. Before I tell you what happened next, let me know where you are watching from and hit that subscribe button. Trust me, you will want to hear how I turned this betrayal into the best decision of my life. As I gathered my children and their backpacks from the porch, I could barely contain my anger. At 34, I had been divorced from Amanda for 2 years after what I thought was a solid 10-year marriage. We had met in college, married young, and started a family almost immediately. I had always wanted to be a father, and despite the demanding nature of my career as an emergency room nurse at Boston General Hospital, I made my children my priority. The pandemic had been particularly brutal for healthcare workers like me. Double shifts became the norm, as colleagues fell ill or burned out. Through it all, I maintained my commitment to our 50-50 custody arrangement, often sacrificing sleep and personal time to ensure I could be present for my kids on my designated days. "Daddy, we tried calling you," Emma said as I unlocked the door. At 8 years old, she had already developed a protective instinct toward her younger siblings. Mom said, "You knew we were coming." I checked my phone and saw 3 missed calls from Amanda and a text saying, "Taking the kids to your place. Got an important date. Thanks." It had been sent while I was helping stabilize a car accident victim, my phone silenced and tucked away in my locker. "How long have you guys been waiting?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady as I ushered them inside. "Since after school, Jack," my 6-year-old mumbled. Emma tried to help with homework, but we could not get in. And then it got dark. That meant they had been sitting outside for over 5 hours, in early October, without dinner, without access to a bathroom, without any certainty of when someone would come home. I had specifically requested to switch our custody days this week because of mandatory training at the hospital. Amanda had agreed. It was all documented in our co-parenting app. Yet here were my children abandoned on my doorstep, on a night she knew I would be working late. This was not the first time Amanda had bent the rules of our arrangement. There had been last-minute changes to the schedule requests for me to take the kids for just a couple hours that turned into overnight stays and frequent complaints that my work schedule was inconvenient for her social life. But she had never done anything this irresponsible before. "Are you guys hungry?" I asked, already knowing the answer. 3 heads nodded vigorously. "Lily needs to use the bathroom," Emma reported, still in caretaker mode. I helped my 4-year-old to the bathroom while instructing the other 2 to wash their hands. Then I assessed the contents of my refrigerator. Being a single dad meant always keeping emergency kid-friendly food on hand, even on weeks when I was not supposed to have them. I quickly prepared macaroni and cheese with cut-up hot dogs, a comfort meal that never failed to please them. While they ate, I discreetly tried calling Amanda. No answer. I texted, "The kids are with me. Call immediately." No response. Mom said her friend Jordan was taking her somewhere fancy. Emma volunteered between bites. She got all dressed up. "Did she say when she would be back?" I asked, keeping my tone conversational, despite the rage building inside me. "Tomorrow," Jack answered. "She said we might have to miss school because you might be sleeping." Missing school because their mother assumed I would be too exhausted after a night shift to take them. The presumption was staggering. The kids had already missed too many days this semester due to Amanda's casual approach to their education. After dinner, I helped them with the homework that should have been completed hours ago. Emma had a science project due the next day that was barely started. Jack had spelling words to practice. Lily just needed reassurance that everything was okay. By the time I tucked them into bed, 2 sharing my bed and 1 on the couch, it was nearly midnight. I was operating on fumes after being awake for almost 20 hours straight, but sleep would not come. I kept thinking about how long they had waited, how easily things could have gone wrong. What if I had been scheduled for a 24-hour shift, as sometimes happened? What if there had been a true emergency at the hospital requiring me to stay even later? The more I thought about it, the more unsettled I became. This was not just an inconvenience or a co-parenting disagreement. This was neglect. My children had been abandoned, without certainty of shelter, food, or supervision, and for what? A date night. I sent one more text to Amanda. We need to talk first thing tomorrow. This is unacceptable. Then I settled into my recliner for a few hours of uneasy sleep, knowing I would need to make arrangements to miss my morning shift to care for my unexpectedly delivered children. Morning came too quickly. I called the hospital at 6 a.m. to explain the situation. My supervisor, Patricia, was understanding but concerned. Darren, this is the third time this month you have had to adjust your schedule last minute for personal reasons. I know it is not your fault, but we have to maintain reliable staffing. I understand, I said, the warning clear. I had been at Boston General for 8 years and had an impeccable record until recently. But hospitals cannot function with unpredictable staffing, especially in the emergency department. My career, which I had worked so hard to build, was now at risk because of Amanda's actions. I got the kids ready for school, making breakfast and packing lunches, as if it were a normal day on my custody schedule. They seemed relieved to have the routine, though Lily clung to me more than usual, afraid I would disappear too. At 8:30, just as I was about to load everyone into the car for school drop-off, Amanda finally appeared at my door, looking refreshed and wearing the same clothes from yesterday. Thanks for taking them, she said breezily, as if she had done me a favor. Jordan surprised me with reservations at Skyline, and then we went dancing and, well, you know how it goes. She winked. I sent the kids to wait in the car, not wanting them to witness what was coming. No, Amanda, I do not know how it goes, I said once they were out of earshot. What I know is that you left our children alone on a porch for 5 hours, on a day you knew I was working, without confirming I was even home. She rolled her eyes. They are fine, Darren. Stop being so dramatic. Kids are resilient. Resilient does not mean they should have to be neglected. What you did was dangerous and selfish. Oh, please. They had each other. Emma is very responsible. Emma is 8 years old. I nearly shouted then, forced myself to lower my voice. She is not a babysitter. She is a child who deserves to be cared for, not caring for her siblings on a dark porch for hours. Look, I do not have time for one of your lectures. I have to get home and change for work. Are you taking them to school, or am I? I will take them, I said, realizing this conversation was going nowhere. But this is not over. We need to have a serious conversation about responsibilities and boundaries. Whatever Amanda said, already turning to leave, text me when you drop them at my place on Sunday. As I drove the kids to school, I could not stop thinking about Amanda's cavalier attitude. When had she become so dismissive of the children's basic needs? Or had she always been this way, and I just had not wanted to see it? At school drop-off, Emma hesitated before getting out of the car. Dad, is Mom in trouble? She asked. No, sweetheart. Mom and I just need to talk about some grown-up things. Do not worry about it. It is just. She paused, fidgeting with her backpack strap. This is not the first time. My heart sank. What do you mean Mom leaves us with people sometimes? Her friends. People we do not know very well. She says it is just for a little while, but sometimes it is a long time. Jack does not like it. He gets scared. And Lily cries. I tried to keep my expression neutral, despite the alarm bells ringing in my head. Thank you for telling me, Emma. You did the right thing. Now go have a good day at school, okay? I will pick you up this afternoon. As I watched her walk into the building, shoulders slumped under the weight of responsibility. No child should carry something hardened inside me. This was not just about one incident. This was a pattern, and my children were suffering. During my lunch break, I called my lawyer, Michael Bernstein. We had not spoken since finalizing the divorce, but he remembered me. Unfortunately, Darren, one incident is not enough to modify a custody arrangement, he explained after hearing my story. Even with the children's reports of previous incidents, you would need more documentation. Courts are reluctant to disrupt established custody arrangements without compelling evidence of ongoing harm. So she can just keep doing this, and I have no recourse, I asked, frustration evident in my voice. I did not say that. Start documenting everything. Times, dates, specifics of what happened. Get the children into therapy, so a professional can assess the impact. Install security cameras at your home. Be meticulous. It was not the immediate solution I wanted, but it was a plan. I thanked him and hung up, then called my sister Katie for backup childcare options. As a mother of two herself living just across town, she had been my lifeline throughout the divorce. Of course, the kids can come here anytime, she assured me. And Darren, you are doing the right thing. Those children need at least one parent they can count on. Over the next 2 weeks, I tried to return to normal. I documented the incident in detail, adjusted my work schedule to accommodate the therapy appointments I scheduled for the children, and installed a doorbell camera that would at least provide evidence if something like this happened again. But normalcy was an illusion that shattered when, during an important training session on new emergency protocols, my phone vibrated with a text from Amanda. Had to go in early for work emergency. Kids at your place. Thanks. I excused myself from the training and called her immediately. No answer. I rushed home to find all 3 children once again on my porch, though, thankfully for a shorter time. This time, Emma had Amanda's old phone with no service plan, but still functional for games. Jack's behavior had deteriorated at school that week, with his teacher reporting unusual aggression toward classmates. And Lily had developed such severe separation anxiety that she had to be physically pried off Amanda at drop-offs, according to her preschool teacher. When I finally reached Amanda by phone, her response was dismissive. You are their father, Darren. Figure it out. I cannot say no to extra shifts just because you have some training thing. That evening, after getting the kids settled, I broke down. The stress of maintaining my professional responsibilities while compensating for Amanda's unpredictability had pushed me to the limit. I sat on my bathroom floor at midnight, silently sobbing, so the children would not hear, feeling trapped in an impossible situation. My own childhood flashed before me. Memories of waiting for parents who were always running late, never quite sure if plans would be kept or broken. I had promised myself my children would never feel that uncertainty, that fear. Yet here they were experiencing exactly what I had vowed to protect them from. In the darkness of my bathroom, sitting on the cold tile floor, I reached a breaking point. I called Katie, not caring that it was past midnight. I cannot do this anymore, I told her, voice cracking. The kids deserve better. I deserve better, but I feel powerless. Katie listened without interruption, then said firmly, You are not powerless, Darren. You have been reacting instead of acting. It is time to change your approach. Her words cut through my despair like a beam of light. She was right. I had been responding to Amanda's chaos rather than creating stability on my own terms. I had documentation of 2 clear custody violations now. The children's deteriorating emotional state was evident. What was I waiting for? What would you tell a patient's family in a similar situation? Katie asked. To advocate aggressively. To not take no for an answer. To find experts who could help. Exactly. So why are you not doing that for your own children? The question hung in the air, unanswerable, because we both knew the truth. I had been hoping Amanda would change, that she would step up as a mother without intervention. That hope was not a strategy. It was a form of surrender. That night I made a decision. I would no longer be at the mercy of Amanda's whims. I would take control of the situation for the sake of my children and my own sanity. The next morning I took 3 specific actions. First, I contacted a different family attorney, Sofia Rodriguez, who specialized in fathers' rights and had a reputation for aggressive advocacy. Second, I emailed my supervisor, requesting a meeting to discuss a more stable schedule, offering to work predominantly night shifts if it meant predictability. Third, I started a detailed log of every custody exchange conversation with Amanda and observation about the children's well-being. Over the next month, I built my case methodically. The doorbell camera captured Amanda dropping the children off unannounced 3 more times. I recorded Jack's teacher's concerns about his regression at school. I documented Lily's nightmares and Emma's increasing parentification. The children's therapist provided professional assessments of the impact of instability on their development. At work, my supervisor surprised me by offering more support than I expected. Darren, You are one of our best nurses. We can make adjustments to help you through this transition." She approved a schedule that gave me consistent days off, making childcare arrangements more reliable. Finally, after 6 weeks of preparation, I requested a meeting with Amanda, with my attorney present. She arrived at the neutral office space looking irritated and dismissive as usual. "Really, Darren, a lawyer." For a conversation we could have had over coffee, Sophia spoke before I could respond. "Miss Cooper, this is not a casual conversation. This is notice of Mr. Lewis's intent to petition for modification of the current custody arrangement based on documented violations and concerns for the children's welfare." Amanda's expression shifted from annoyance to shock as Sophia methodically presented the evidence we had gathered: time-stamped video of unscheduled drop-offs, therapy reports, school documentation of behavioral issues, and my detailed log of communication attempts gone unanswered. "You have been documenting me, like I am some kind of criminal." Amanda's voice rose with indignation. "No," I said calmly. "I have been protecting our children. There is a difference. This is ridiculous. So, I am spontaneous sometimes. The kids need to learn flexibility. Children need consistency and security," Sophia countered. "The pattern of behavior documented here shows a disregard for the children's emotional needs and for the legally binding custody agreement you both signed." For the first time, I saw fear flicker across Amanda's face as she realized this was not a bluff. "What exactly are you asking for?" she asked, her voice smaller now. "Primary physical custody to Darren, with you having visitation every other weekend and 1 evening per week. Child support will be recalculated accordingly." "That is insane. No judge would agree to that." "Multiple family court precedents suggest otherwise," Sophia replied, sliding across a folder of similar cases. "We have substantial evidence of inconsistent parenting time neglect, of educational responsibilities, and emotional harm. We are prepared to call witnesses, including teachers, healthcare providers, and the children's therapist." Amanda turned to me, anger and panic competing in her expression. "You cannot do this to me. I am their mother. This is not about taking the children from you," I said, maintaining eye contact. "It is about creating the stable environment they desperately need. You can still be an important part of their lives. But they need a home they can count on, schedules they can rely on, and the knowledge that their needs come first." The meeting ended with Amanda storming out, but the process was in motion. 3 weeks later, we appeared before Judge Hernandez, a family court veteran known for her no-nonsense approach. I sat rigid with anxiety as evidence was presented from both sides. Amanda's attorney attempted to paint me as inflexible and controlling, using my detailed documentation against me as evidence of obsessive behavior. But when the children's therapist testified about the impact of unpredictable parenting on their sense of security, the judge's expression grew increasingly concerned. In my professional opinion, Dr. Patterson concluded the children show clear symptoms of anxiety, directly related to the lack of consistency in their care schedule. Emma, in particular, has taken on an inappropriate caretaker role that is affecting her social development with peers. The most difficult moment came when Amanda took the stand, tears streaming as she described her struggles as a single mother, trying to balance work and parenting. For a moment, I felt a pang of sympathy. Parenting was hard for everyone. But then she said something that crystallized exactly why this fight was necessary. Sometimes you just have to prioritize your own needs. If I'm not happy, how can I be a good mother? Judge Hernandez's pen stopped moving. She looked up sharply, studying Amanda's face. In that moment, I knew we had a chance. After 2 grueling days in court, we awaited the judge's decision. When it finally came, her words were measured but clear. The court finds sufficient evidence that the current custody arrangement is not serving the best interests of the children. Therefore, primary physical custody is awarded to Mr. Lewis, with Ms. Cooper granted visitation every other weekend and Wednesday evenings. The relief that washed over me was so powerful I nearly collapsed. I had done it. My children would have the stability they deserved. The first few weeks of our new arrangement were chaotic in their own way. Amanda initially reacted with fury, threatening appeals, and making the exchanges tense and tearful. The children were confused by the changes, with Jack acting out and Lily becoming even more clingy. Only Emma seemed quietly relieved, the burden of responsibility lifting from her small shoulders gradually. I had to completely reorganize my life around being the primary parent. My sister Katie became our rock, helping with after-school care when I worked day shifts. I found a reliable babysitter for night shifts, a nursing student named Alicia who needed the extra income and was wonderful with the kids. The hospital administration worked with me to create a more predictable schedule, recognizing that stability would ultimately make me a more reliable employee. Surprisingly, one of my greatest supports came from an unexpected source: other single fathers at the hospital. Mark from radiology, Tony from maintenance, and Jerome from administration formed an informal support group that met for lunch every other week. We exchanged childcare tips, vented about co-parenting challenges, and reminded each other that we were not alone. The first year is the hardest. Jerome told me after I had a particularly rough day juggling a school conference and a sick child. But it gets better. You are building something that will last. Amanda gradually adjusted to the new reality. After the initial shock wore off, she began to engage more meaningfully during her parenting time. Perhaps the limited hours made her treasure them more. Perhaps seeing the children thrive with consistency made her reevaluate her approach. Whatever the reason, by the 6-month mark, she had become more reliable about pickups and drop-offs, more engaged in school activities, and more communicative about plans. The most profound changes, however, were in the children. Jack's aggressive outbursts at school stopped completely by the end of the first semester with our new arrangement. His teacher sent home a note that brought tears to my eyes. Jack seems like a different child, focused, cooperative, and smiling again. Lily's separation anxiety improved week by week. The breakthrough came when I dropped her at preschool, and instead of clinging to my leg in panic, she simply gave me a hug and said, "See you after school, Daddy. I know you will come back." That simple expression of trust meant everything. Emma's transformation was more subtle but equally significant. She slowly stopped checking on her siblings, constantly stopped managing household details that should never have been her concern, and rediscovered activities she enjoyed. She joined the science club at school and made a new best friend, Zoe, whose parents invited her for weekend playdates. For my part, I discovered strengths I never knew I possessed. I became expert at managing household logistics, advocating for the children's educational needs, and balancing work responsibilities with family time. I learned to meal prep on my days off to help with school projects without taking over, and to create special one-on-one time with each child despite our busy schedule. The hospital noticed the change in me as well. My supervisor commented during my annual review, "Your work has actually improved since taking on primary custody. You seem more focused, more efficient," and the patients respond to that calm confidence. Family therapy continued to be a cornerstone of our healing. Dr. Patterson helped us navigate the complex emotions of our restructured family, giving the children space to express their feelings about the changes and teaching me how to support them through the transition. "You have given them the greatest gift," she told me during a parent consultation, "the gift of security. They know now that no matter what happens, someone will be there. That changes everything for their development." 1 year after the court decision, we celebrated with a special dinner at home. I had decorated the dining room with balloons and made everyone's favorite foods: homemade pizza for Jack, spaghetti for Emma, and macaroni and cheese for Lily. We had made it through the hardest part. As we sat around the table, Emma raised her glass of sparkling cider. "To Dad," she said. For fighting for us, I was too choked up to respond immediately. Instead, I looked at their faces, these 3 incredible human beings I had the privilege of raising. They had been through so much uncertainty, yet here they were, resilient and thriving. "I will always fight for you," I finally managed. That is what parents do. We show up every day no matter what. Later that night, after the kids were in bed, I sat on my porch swing in the quiet darkness. I thought about the journey of the past year, from that terrible night of finding the children abandoned on this very porch, to the peaceful evening we had just shared. The path had not been easy, but it had led exactly where we needed to go. Life continues to present challenges, of course. Balancing work and single parenthood is never simple. Amanda still occasionally tests boundaries. The children still have moments of insecurity that harken back to less stable times. But the foundation is solid now. Sometimes I think about what I would tell that version of myself from a year ago, exhausted and angry on the porch with 3 confused children. I would tell him that this painful moment would become the catalyst for positive change. That finding the courage to stand up and take control would transform not just the children's lives but his own. That sometimes what feels like a betrayal can actually be the beginning of something better than you ever imagined. Have you ever experienced a moment that seemed terrible at the time but led to positive changes in your life? Share your story in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more real-life journeys of overcoming challenges. Thank you for listening. And remember, sometimes our greatest strength emerges when we are pushed to our breaking point. Take care of yourselves and those who depend on you.